This is take number 2 on Jeanne d'Arc. Okay, maintenant, I want you to tell me your early experiences. And one of the things I'd like you to start with is about your first confirmation.
My first confirmation. Oh, well, Mum could not afford a white dress or veil and all this stuff. So she made me a she thought it was cute anyway, blue dress. And I had a little blue bonnet to put on my head. And I hated it. So anyway, we went to church, the whole family, and came back, and Dad could see that I was not happy. So he said, you know what? He says, the pig just had her little piglets. That's all he had to say. And I ran in the back of the yard where we had the pigs, and I jumped in with the little piglets to play with them. And he found me there, and I was filthy, dirty. And then the aunts came, the aunts and the uncles, and Dad caught me, and I don't know what he did. He washed me up. That's all I remember. But I was happy to be with the piglets. I couldn't stand it otherwise.
So tell me about some of your early memories of your mom.
Of my mom? I did not know it at the time, but apparently Dad spoilt me. And Mom was trying to discipline me. And it must have been during the winter time, because Uncle Frank had come with his kids and they couldn't go back. So they all slept at home. And we had a big double bed for the girls, and we laid about 5 kids in there, but we laid this way. And I was showing off. I was dancing and I was jumping, and Daddy took his strap and he hit it on the sails and says, Jeanne d'Arc, stop. Well, I stopped for a few minutes, but I started all over again, showing off. So who comes up for Mum? And she says, come here. In front of all my little cousin. She pulled my panties down and she went, whoa! That was, I say it and it still hits me. That was the hardest thing that I have, humiliation.
Because she did it in front of everybody.
In front of all my cousins. It was so quiet, they never heard a mouse after that. I was a brat, I really was. And then I remember, Jean-Louis Leopold and I were very close, very, very close. And I'll never forget, they were putting the addition to the house. And we sat in the wheelbarrow and they told to be very quiet, don't come near them because they might drop something on us. And we all had little kittens in our hands. We love kittens, huh, Jean-Louis? And they took a picture of this. I think it's the most beautiful picture of the 3 of us. And we're just beautiful there, enjoying.
Speaking of kittens, I have an Uncle Paul tell me this story as well. But I think you were there as well.
Oh, yes, so I was there. We knew that the cat was going to have little ones because she disappeared for a day. And then we had found her. She was in Mom and Dad's clothes closet among the shoes. And she had made a space for her little kittens. So Leopold and I, we went up there very quietly. Nobody knew where we were. And she was she was having a hard time, so we tried to pull the kittens to help her. My first delivery as a midwife. And of course she killed the kittens because you don't touch the little ones. And Mom gave us a good lecture. She says now she has to care the little ones, and we didn't know what to do. I want to put them back in, we didn't know what to do. But so I'll never forget, when I was delivering babies, I'd think of that once in a while. My first delivery went kaput.
Speaking of kittens, I also know there was a maple sugar situation.
Oh, that was Dad. Dad used to cook our breakfast every morning. And he had made some crapots. I don't know what you call those, the crapots, whatever. And we put the syrup on it. And it was so good. So he made his syrup, and he went to... the cat was under his feet, and he was furious with it. And I don't know if he tripped or what, but he poured he poured the syrup on the cat, and the poor cat was all sticky, ooky, icky. Poor Dad. Oh, he could have killed the cat. He was so mad. So then we had molasses that morning with our kraputs. But poor Dad. Oh.
So, talk to me about your experiences when you were two. I don't know if you remember this. When you were 2 years old, I think that this is what happened with.
Oh, yeah. Leopold and I were always in trouble, always doing something wrong or something. He too. So Leopold says, you know, Dad is so tired when he comes home, and he has to go and do the kindling. Well, it's for the stove in the house. He says, let's go. He says, he forgot to put the axe up. He used to put the axe up there and we couldn't reach it, but he had left there. He says, now, you hold the stick and I'll cut. So I, like dope, I hold the stick and he takes the axe and he goes, and he cuts my finger. So he runs in the house because we had 2 little chairs in the kitchen. We were always sitting there as a penance. One in one corner and the other in the other corner. So he runs and he sits in his chair. So Mom says, what's happened? I don't know. She says, where's your little sister? She's in the backyard. So Mom comes in. Here I am. I'm bleeding and I'm holding this finger. But I'm not crying. I think I was stunned. So she brought me in the house. She never says anything to Leopold. And she loved iodine. Anything that got cut, that iodine, it burns like fire. And then she puts a needle there. And she wraps it up. We couldn't go to the doctors. We had no money. And that's why I can't fold it anymore.
Yeah. So point at me with that.
It's a crooked finger. And when I play basketball, that thing would swell in the ball. If sometimes the ball would hit on it. And for a few days, they would cut down.
I didn't know you played basketball.
Oh, yeah.
What position did you play?
Captain.
Wow, that's your
I
rank.
was a forward, yeah. I loved it. It didn't last too long, though.
Now, what else did you do when you were in grade school?
When I was in grade school, I was a good runner. And if they played baseball, I couldn't bat, but I could run. So they'd bat and I'd run. Nobody could catch me. With your mom and your dad, what kind of things did you do with them when you grew up? Mom was very good trying to teach us how to sew, and cooking, no, but Dad would like to teach us he taught me how to make cakes. And the first cake I made banged down. And he came home, it was for Mom's birthday or something, and he says, that's all right. He says, we'll fix it, we'll make a pudding and make a nice bread pudding. I'm not a good cook, I really am not, I'm learning. But he tried to teach me all sorts of stuff. When I was a little teenager, I guess, but I left home when I was 13.
It seemed like all of you guys left at the age of 13.
We did. Why? Well, first of all, I was going to go into the 8th grade. And they changed teacher. We had a beautiful teacher there, Bertha Blanchet. I'm sure Leopold might have mentioned her. And she left, I guess she was having a baby or something. And this lady who had been in a mental institute came in to teach the 8th grade. Well, there was something funny there. So Mom didn't want me to go there.
When you're saying funny, what kind of funny things was this teacher doing?
She was not a teacher. And I'd speak to my friends who stayed there. They never learned anything. They learned how to knit, and they learned how to sew. Honest to God. The 8th grade was kaput. Mom knew this. So she sent me to Ave Maria. No, where did I go for my 8th grade? Yeah, Ave Maria. Because where Mary Paul had been, and Jackie, and Nadine, and all this, with the Dominican sisters. And they thought I was like Mary Paul, but I was not. Mary Paul was the perfect lady. That's why she became a Dominican. But I went there and I was wild. And I was lonely. We thought Jackie and I were going to be together, but we weren't, because they had closed the high school that year. So here I was all by myself in this big school. Didn't know anybody, and Jackie was in Lewiston. We didn't have any money, so we couldn't see each other. No, that was a bad, bad year for me. I hated the Dominicans. I blamed everything on them, and in fact, it did, when I was younger, hinder my relationship with Mary Paul, because she was a Dominican.
Really?
Yep.
And okay, why was it such a tough experience with the Dominicans? There must have been some things that the Dominicans did.
Well, they thought I'd be like Mary Paul. Mary Paul was a good little girl. She did everything the nuns did, and I was wild. I was wild.
When you're saying wild, what kind of wild things were you doing?
I'd run away.
Yeah?
I mean, I wanted to go home. I didn't want to stay in that hole. It was hard. That year, no. So at Christmas time, we came home. We only came at Christmas and then summer. And we walked in the house. Mom knew we'd write letters, oh la la. So Jackie and I started crying. We're not going back there. We're not going back, Mom. Nope, nope. We're not going back. So she sat down with us and she says, look, we could see she was hurt. She says, Mom cannot do it now, but I promise you, you will not go back there next year. I promise you. I don't know what Mom's going to do, but she's going to find something. So, well, we went back. And because you had good conduct, and if you spoke beautiful French and good English and all this, they'd give us these doodad things. I never had them in my hands. At the beginning of the month, they'd give us, I don't know what they were. I tell you the truth, they were little stones as far as I was concerned. And I said, don't give them to me because today they'll be gone. And of course, my French was horrible. And you had to be very quiet and ladylike. I was a little demon. So they put him in and they'd go out. I'd lose him. I said, well, your sister was, you know.
What kind of punishments did they give you?
Well, they didn't punish me. It's just I was humiliated because I was not like Mary Paul. But it didn't work. It didn't work because I just continued anyway. You know, like the nuns, oh, no. I did not like them at all, at all, at all.
Okay, you've been saying that. I was just wondering, what is it that they did to make you really upset besides them comparing you to...
Oh, they were saying I was such a nice girl. They compared me to Mary Paul, where we never compared at home, never. And I miss Jackie. I thought I was going to be with Jackie. I think that was the biggest thing. So I was going to give them a run for their money, boys.
Get back at them.
Yep. I was bad. So then the next year we went to St. Joseph's in South Berwick. Jackie, can you imagine? She had her freshman and sophomore year in Sabattis, Ave Maria. Then they closed it, so she stayed in St. Dom's. And the sisters had left a room upstairs for two of those girls. Jackie was lonely. And then she was so clever that they had her teach the kiddies, they'd say we're lifesaver. The kiddies in the grammar school at St. Peter's to distract her. So anyway, that's what happened. And then we went to St. Joseph, which was very nice, for her senior year. And they wanted her to stay there to teach so I could finish my high school. I went freshman there. But no, we came, and then I went to St. Agatha.
I'm going to stop there for that. All right.
Okay, that was nice because he was in the 7th grade, 8th grade. Went there 2 years, 7th and 8th, 2 years. And I was I started my freshman year. I did sophomore. So I did my freshman in St. Joseph's. But the nuns were very good to us. And we paid for our boarding. He didn't, but I did. I would wash the pans and pots, and they'd give us little cakes and other things, you know. So because they knew we were lonely, we couldn't go home. Went home when we could with the LeBeufs, huh? And they were good to us because Mom and Dad had no cars. But at least we saw Mom and Dad once in a while. And he was there. So if I got anything, I'd give him some little things. And we'd go into the little kiddies' dorms to wash the children. They had orphans also. It's not orphans, it was the Cote families, remember? And at one point, it was a big family in Limestone. And they had twins, and the mother was sick, and they had 8 kids in there in that convent. It was the best education we had up here. And so we'd go and watch those kids, the twins, they were so cute. Oh. And it gave us something to do, besides just, and that's where I played basketball. I loved it.
Talk to me about your Aunt Marie.
My what?
Your Aunt Marie, did you remember her?
Aunt Marie.
Suzanne.
Oh, Suzanne. Oh my goodness. Marie was mental. She, at one point, they were living in our house when they first moved in from Lewiston, and they had the big living room that was closed and we couldn't move, and they had some nice things. I was always caught in there, opening boxes, and the Marie, we used to say, little crazy woman, get out of here. We could not stand her. And then she'd play the harmonica? Oh yeah, and then how do you play?
Mother's Heart?
Yeah.
So
and then she would play this, and she wanted us to dance. Well, we didn't want to dance with this old thing. And then we'd go pick up strawberries or raspberries, and we used to go in the big fields. And she always wanted to send us twice a day to get rid of us. Mom used to go to the summer school to finish her college. And we kept there, and one day we decided we were going to play a trick on them. We filled the bottom of our buckets with leaves and stuff. And we started smoking. We had brought some newspaper with dry leaves, and they were the open and out. We didn't even know what we were doing. And of course they smelled the tobacco, and they wanted Mom to really punish us. So Mom sat us down. I don't know if you were there. I know Leopold and I, we're always together. And we sat down and she talked to the aunts and she says, look, these children are missing me and we're grateful that you're here to help us, but they're children. They can't go picking berries twice a day. Once a day is okay. And he said, but look at this. She says, well, I'll take care of it. That's all we heard. I'll take care of it. In front of the aunts. Then the aunts went to bed or something. She sat us down. She explained to us very seriously, the two of us, that she did not like us smoking. She says, when you're older, it's okay, but not now. That was the end. We never did it again. But she says, and Mom told them, you go pick berries once a day. That's all. Well, we were so excited we would have done anything. Not just to go back. But we went there with friends. We had not always friends with us, so it was fun.
now I heard you had quite many boyfriends.
Of course.
And I want you to talk to me a little bit about that, and then I want you to lead me up to like when you made a decision to become a nun.
Oh dear. Yes, we had nice little friends.
When you're saying nice little friends, you're a little more.
Boy and girls. And the boys had gotten bicycles, but we didn't have bicycles. So my friend Joyce and Scott were like sisters. Their family was not a happy family. And so she'd come and sleep with me at night. She'd stay with us. She wanted to stay with us. The boys liked her too. She was really cute. And anyway, we would go to picnics and the boys would be there with us, of course. And I remember once I came down with dungarees. I'd borrowed Leopold's. The girls didn't wear dungarees. No, we wore dresses. And I passed and the priest was there. And Mom said, go in the back shed. You're not coming into the kitchen dressed like that. And Father Thibault was the pastor. He loved me. So he just looked at me and smiled, but I listened to Mama. Ooh la la. So I walked out, went for my picnic, came back. And then Joyce and I were always caught doing something. We decided we'd go hitchhiking. So the two of us went off and went on the main street. We're not far. We had just turned the corner on the highway. And who comes along but Father Thibault, that famous priest. And he stops the car and says, where are you girls going? Oh, we're just hitchhiking. He says, get in this car. We didn't hitchhike at all. He says to us, now, I'm going to tell you something. If your mother hears this, Jeanne, he says, you know what's going to happen. I says, yeah. He says, well, I won't tell her. But he says, promise me, never to hitchhike anymore. That was the end of our hitchhiking. But we had a good time, and and then the boss of the mill organized a dance for the kids to make money. And my little boyfriend was his son. And Joyce had hers too. So we decided we'd go and decorate in the afternoon, and then we'd go at night and dance. So that didn't seem too bad, except I had to make a cake. It was somebody's birthday. And Dad said, I'll help you. So he helped me, and then he had to go. And I don't know what I did. I went to wash dishes or something with a pot, and I burnt my foot. But I didn't want anybody to know. I wanted to go to the dance. I had to go to the dance. I'll never forget that. It was not a nice night. It was very painful, but I went anyway. And then, I think it was 9:30. Who comes in? Leopold. Mom wants you home. Oh, yeah. Leopold came to get me. So I said, well, let me just finish this dance and then I'll come home. Leopold was good though. So he walked out and then he started kissing me and they put the lights on, the brats. That was Bernard. Bernard put the lights out. Outside, I could have killed him. I was so angry. By that time I was about maybe 14 or something like that. So I didn't have to, but then when I decided, well, I knew way down deep I didn't want it. I didn't want to go there.
When you say don't want to go there, didn't want to go...
I didn't want to be a nun. But we in St. Agatha, we had plays. Remember, Jeanne? And I was always in the play, and so was he. And the sisters sat me down one night, so I wanted to practice with you. There's something you're not doing well. So she sat down and says, Jeanne, what are you going to do with your life? I says, well, I booked at St. Joseph's to become a teacher. That was a blessing. So I could never be a teacher in my life. So she says, yeah, I've seen the papers coming through. But she says, what do you really want to do? So she started talking to me. I don't know what. And she says, well, I want you to pray over this. I want you to pray over this and find out really, really what God wants of you. So I said, pray. Oh, I'm going to pray. But then I must say, I think the example of the sisters there in St. Agatha, they were very good to the kids. You know, there was none of this scolding and if you deserved something, they'd sit down with you and talk to you. But they were not mean like Dominicans. So anyway, hello, Marie-Paul. But so then I just said, well, I can always go, and if I don't like it, I can come back. You know, that was my thing. But so then I decided to give it a gift to Mom for Mother's Day. As a gift, I was going to go to the convent. So we came home for Mother's Day, and I couldn't wait to tell her. So I said, Mom, I have something to tell you. Dad was not there. So I said, well, I have a gift for you, but it's different. She says, what? I said, well, I'd like to be a nun. She says, what? She said, are you sure you're not doing that to please somebody? I says, no, I think maybe. I said, I can always go and come back if it's not my vocation, you know. That's all she said. That's all she said. Dad comes home. And so I said, Dad, I've got something to tell you. He says, what? I said, well, I'd like to go to the convent. And he says, well, go, but he says, remember this. You have to be the best religious that you can be. But he said, I'm going to tell you something. If you're not happy, and if you feel this is not, you're always welcomed here. Well, that was my decision. You know, I think for me, I was spoiled. I know that now. I didn't know it then. But Dad idolized the two of us.
You said the two of us, you're saying?
Jean-Louis and I. And we couldn't do anything wrong. And Mom had to discipline us some way or other. And the brothers and sisters they were good to us. We're the babies, what can I tell you? So, and I think Mom really wanted to make us strong people, with convictions, and we were just, anything went. So I always appreciate Mom for that. She was straight, she really was, with us anyway, I thought. But it paid. And I was happy. I went into this shit. I was lonely though, I did, in the beginning. And I'll never forget, when we left, we took the train from Edmundston through Canada because we had half fares as religious. And we had to dress these stupid black uniforms. Oh, God. And we were 3 of us taking the train from Edmundston, go to Montreal, change, and then go to Connecticut. So but as soon as we got to Montreal, we dressed with our own clothes, and there were these little sailors there. We had a ball. So much of our last fling. So, and that night, we arrived in Connecticut with another girl that was joining us. We were 4 from St. Agatha that year. And they just had a wedding. And the bride and groom had just gone off on their honeymoon, and everything was still there. So the boys who had graduated with us from St. Agatha were there. They'd gone to work. So we all got together, we had a ball. And they dressed me up in the outfit of the bride to see what I'd look like as a bride. And like a dope, they took pictures. And I sent one to Mom. Oh, I was stupid. I was really stupid.
What'd your mom say?
She never mentioned it. She never mentioned it. I just told her we had had a good time and we had met our friends. And, and the next day we went to, there was not a bazaar, but the Ferris wheels and all this stuff. A circus going on, not far from their house. So we all went there. And we forgot the time. We arrived at the convent, it was 6:30, everybody was, and we had had a good time. So, and the boys brought us, of course, somebody had to drive us. So that was my last fling. And then the first Saturday we were there, we're lonely. Oh my, I was really lonely. So we heard the music across the river. You've been to Litchfield, with the mountains. And then there's a river and there's a big, Torrington is right, they were having a big dance. Well, we started dancing in the dormitory, a few of us. And we had we were 24 that came in that year. And we started dancing. Well, of course, we stepped in our basins of water. We were laughing, never knowing that the mistress, the one in charge of us, was sleeping right next door. She never said a word. We finally went to bed. But the next morning, she calls us and she says, I heard that some little people had a good time. We had been there 3 days or 4 days. So she says, well, here we don't dance. And she says, I really would appreciate it if you'd be very careful, but tell me what happened. So I said, well, we danced. We heard the music, we had to dance. Oh. I think they didn't know what to do with me, really. But then after a while, I realized that's really what I wanted. And I never regretted it.
So now, what spurred the decision to go to Africa?
Well, and I would never have asked for it. But they were opening this hospital. And they needed, and I was a nurse. I was a nurse in Portsmouth, Virginia. And they had put me in the black unit. They were isolated in those days. And I loved it. This was a real little hospital for me. We had the men, the women, maternity, pediatrics, the whole thing in one big wing. You've been to my review. Yeah. It was all wings. They were barracks. And I just loved them. They were so nice. The white people always complained and they always needed something more and we didn't do another. These people, you do something, thank you, ma'am, thank you, ma'am. They were so kind. And I guess that there was a beginning, I don't know. So this Mother General, the one from Rome, came in and she...
That's okay.
She was a sick lady. She had been in France when there was bombardment. She had the part of her, in her spine. And she was all crippled. So I took care of her as a nurse. And she just talked to me and she says, we need some nurses in Africa. She says, did you ever think of going overseas? And I said, no. She says, well, if we'd ask you to go, would you go? I said, yeah, I guess so. And so she was there for a week. At the end of the week, she said goodbye to us, and one by one. And my dear friend was behind me, John. We had two clowns, we had such a good time. We're always in trouble, but it's a good time. And she says to me, consider yourself a missionary. And John heard it. Sister John heard it. And so John, she comes out and says, what did she tell you? What did she tell you? She said, I consider myself a missionary. Of course, there was no secret. I didn't think so anyway. Oh. So this was in August. And in October, I was told, go home, go and see your mom, and, bid your farewells. And in November, I flew to Africa.
Yeah, on the road right now.
We had visitors in the house, most probably Aunt Siva and Melda and the whole family. And Dad came from work. And we had this toilet. It was not a toilet. It was a chemical toilet upstairs. And the bucket was full. So he says to me, come with me. You're going to help me. I said, okay. So he takes the bucket. He puts it on the side of the window. He says, now hold on tight. Dad is going to go up with a ladder and pick up the bucket. He didn't want the family to know all that. I said, okay. So he puts it on the window. I'm hanging on tight. I don't know how old I was. So poor Dad, he starts climbing the ladder, and I forgot to hold it tight, and I spilled it all on him. Poor, he could have killed me. He says, go get your mother. That's the first time that I remember that he spoke pretty harshly to me. I can understand. So I go get Mom. I said, Mom, Dad wants you outside now. And I disappear, of course. I mean, I didn't do anything wrong, right? So poor Dad, he says, Cecile, get me some water, get me some clothes. Look, he said, I'll clean it up. I'll put it where it belongs. But he says, I can't go in there. So Mom's laughing. And I'm scot-free. I just dropped the bucket, that's all. So that's one thing that I've been teased since I don't know how old I was. I have no idea.
See, I've heard that story many times. I never knew it was you that held the bucket that dropped it on him. I've heard several different variations of it.
Well, I had the bucket. I had the bucket. Oh, yeah.
I haven't heard too much about Armand.
Armand?
What was your experiences with him?
Armand, to me, he was always the rescuer. If somebody was hurt, Armand was there. He was a sensitive, delicate little man. And Lorette was my girlfriend. We were in school together. And she was very shy. She was very, very shy. She's still a little bit, but anyway. So I'd bring her home. Not often, but ever so often. And Armand got, to like her. And then they started going out together. Well, I wanted to go with them, of course. What did I know about this business? So we go to parents, and Armand was like, not a coach, but he was watching over me. I was wild. And when he'd say, I think we'd better go home now, Jeanne. I said, okay. So we go home. But I held him high in my estimation. The others were too busy, I guess, but he kept an eye. I don't know about you, but I know he was very, very close to me. And I remember when he heard that I was going to be a nun, he was not happy. He was not happy, Armand. And he says, well, Jeanne, he says, you know, I would never do anything, but he says, if you don't like it, come back. You know, that ever so often, that would ring in my ears, you know, between him and Dad. And then whenever I come home from Africa, he'd be at the airport to pick me up. And of course, they always had a big meal, as Lorette can always do. And I just love those kids. But they love me too, and they still laugh when I tell them that it's true. To me, they all looked alike. And I'd say, Muriel needs to know, I'm somebody else. And no, I'm not. I was so mixed up, I didn't. And all these other kids would come. I had no idea who's who belonged to who, what happened. But they were really cute. And Armand, I saw him I was going back, and he died 2 months later. That was hard. I found that very, very hard. I don't know, I missed him a lot. So I think our relationship was very close, the two of us. But
what about Bernard?
My own Bernard loved me to bits. Bernard would spoil me rotten. And I was so happy to be able to be with him, a little bit anyway, in Auburn. And I'd go as often as I could, you know, and he knew, and if he saw a nice program on TV, he'd call us. And he was like a real dad. He took Dad's place, really, to me. You know, and we knew he was sickly, we knew he didn't feel good, but he didn't complain that much. For all he had, no.
So Mattel, you say you were a wild one. What was the wildest thing you ever did?
What did I do?
What was the wildest thing you did?
Well, we'd go on picnics, and then I'd tell Mom I'd be home at such a time, but I never was there at time.
Where were you?
We'd go bicycling. We'd go to Plaisted, come back, and oh yeah, there's ones. It was the winter time, and Mildred and I, and Joyce and I, with our boyfriends, and I was with Russell there from the guy from the mill. And we were 6 of us in there. And we were singing, I don't know what. And you know that hill, that big curve going down to Soldier Pond? Instead of going the road, we went in the field. Nothing happened. You know, I mean, we had to get the car out, and we were frozen. But besides that, then we came back home because we didn't know if the car would bring us back. So then we got dancing. But the only thing, we used to go dancing in Plaisted, Marnie's, because we didn't want anybody in Eagle Lake we didn't like the kids in Eagle Lake. They were too wild, we thought. So somebody had a car, so we'd go down to Plaisted. But Richard was there, Richard and Roger. They were cousins of ours, but they were not nice. They were crude, I thought. Whoa. I did. Roger was off. And he'd say to me, if your mother was here, she would not want you here. And I said, well, yeah, get out of my way. But we'd have a good time. We'd take picnics and go in the grounds there, where they have the grounds now, by the lake. And we'd just sit there and sing and just enjoy ourselves. We were quite innocent, you know, in those days.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we've got it with that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank